So this is what the DBU Mooc looked like. The service that they use, you probably have heard of some of the other services that provide Moocs, Coursera, edX, things like that. But Blackboard has a product called Course Sites that they are marketing to universities that are wanting to do MOOCs. And so DBU uses Blackboard for its regular online education, and so apparently they purchased the Course Sites to help be their platform for their MOOC. And so you'll recognize some of the elements if you've seen Blackboard courses before. And so you have this kind of setup, and primarily what you do is, if anybody that's used Blackboard before will know, kind of operate over here in the left menu. And primarily the way that DBU set it up is that you would do most of your stuff in this learning hub. So you go there and you would have each week available to you. And so the course just finished last week, and so all of the weeks are available. But you wouldn't have access to week 10 if you were in week 5. So they would open up every week, Sunday night or Monday morning, something like that. And so what you would do is you go to whatever week that you're on, you would click on that, and that would take you to the content of the course. Now, the way DBU sets up their online education is primarily online sessions full of text, full of just like online written lectures. That's not how these were set up. You would have a reading plan, and so you would have access to online versions of the scriptures that you were supposed to read for that week, which would be part of the text that you would have to read for that week. And then you also had access to Robertson's Word Picture Commentary. If you're not familiar with biblical studies, commentaries are kind of a word for word or verse by verse interpretation. It's heavily takes a heavy look at the Greek, original Greek, and how that's been translated, and some of the issues that are involved there. And so that's what these are. These are links to the commentary for particular passages from Matthew 5, 6, and 7. So this is kind of the second portion of the text, if you will, would be this commentary. So this is something that's available online for free, kind of a public domain option, but it's a pretty good commentary, a pretty scholarly piece of literature. They also would have optional reading that you can do on your own. And so the majority of these could be linked, and they were just out there on the web for free. Some of them were not, and I'll talk about this when I get to my critique of Moocs. You also would have a study guide, which is kind of the notes, the lecture notes from Dr. Dennison, who did the lectures. But the primarily portion of the each week session was the lectures, and so there'd be these lectures anywhere from 7 to 15 minutes worth of video lectures, and I'll show an example of this here in just a second. And so you'd watch the lectures, and then you would have discussion questions that you would need to respond to. You would also have study questions, and primarily what these are would to get you thinking more in depth about the lecture and the text that you've read. A lot of these questions would show up again on the quiz that would happen each week at the end of the week. And so you'd have 3 lectures for each week session. And so the way I would do it is just kind of take it day by day. I would watch a lecture one day, and then go through the discussion board that day, and then come back the next day and kind of do the same drill. And so after you watch the lecture, you would come over here to the group discussions. And this is where you would have your discussion board. And so since there was over 1,000 participants in this particular MOOC, they didn't want us to have just thousands and thousands of responses. So they grouped us up into discussion groups. And so I'm in the Matthew 12 discussion group. And so you would enter the discussion board, and based on the question that was available for that particular lecture, that's what you respond to. So I think we were on week 5, So I come down here to week 5 and lecture 14. And so I'd have two options. I didn't have to respond to both of these. I would just choose one and go to that particular question and then post my response um, to that particular question. And then I can also respond to other people that are participating in the discussion. One of the things that you would have each week would be a quiz. And so the idea would be that you would complete the quiz in order to go on to the next week. There was no limit on how many times you could take the quiz, but you were graded, and you'll see my grades here. Never, um, I didn't always get a perfect score, but got 80s and above on each one, so I finished with 80 out of 90. So you can see I didn't complete one quiz. But here's my grades, so no heckling that I didn't do as well as I probably should have. But that was my grade, and so that was one way that they would assess the participants in the MOOC. The questions were only 10 questions long, and some of them were easy. Some of them came from the text. Some of them came from the lecture. Some of them came from the study guide and other notes. And so it wasn't always a slam dunk. And so it was a pretty good weekly quiz type grade. But beyond this, there was no other assessment.